Hey guys, this is Mr. Saints Godzilla 21, and today I'll explain to you my wish list for Saints Row 5. Now I know I promised to make this video months ago, but I kept getting sidetracked with other work. But now I'm going to give you my point of view and wishes, and I'll try my best not to repeat everything Flippy's already talked about. Let's get started with gameplay. Before anyone can make a list of what they want from a future Saints Row title, you need to decide on what direction the series should go in. The game can either continue off where Saints Row 4 ended with the Saints owning a time machine, or the series could start over with a new main character.
It's not a tumor, it's a baby!
It's been reported many times that Saints Row 4 would be the last game to include the original cast, but anything's possible at this point. I for one would prefer a fresh start with no connections to the last game. Saints Row 5 should return to its roots with crazy, but serious gangster gameplay. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the game's core mechanics. Let's quickly talk about Saints Row's combat system. Saints Row 1 had decent combat, but it was highly advanced in Saints Row 2. You were able to unlock 3 types of melee styles that were best used in Fight Club, probably one of the best activities in the Saints Row series. But in Saints Row III, the combat system was highly dumbed down. All the combat styles were replaced with the action button attacks, leaving the regular melee bland and broken. Sure, the action button could be quite cool, but I must admit it's overpowered and the melee system in Saints Row 2 was a lot more rewarding. So for Saints Row 5, I'd definitely like to see Saints Row 2's melee return, or even a better melee system. Now let's talk about weapons. There has been both improvements and downgrades to the weapons throughout the series. Saints Row 1 had a good range of weapons and introduced the world to the infamous Pimp Slap and Pimp Cane. Saints Row 2 only improved the weapons and added more, but then there were setbacks. Saints Row 3's weapons now had the ability to be upgraded, in most cases turning the weapon entirely into something else. Without the ability to remove upgrades, this caused concerns, especially when it came to dual wielding. Once you bought the dual wielding upgrade, you could no longer hold just one pistol or SMG. This became a serious problem that wasn't even fixed in Saints Row 4. I've always wondered why Volition didn't just continue off Saints Row 2's weapon system. You could choose to wield one or more weapons from your crib without any problems. Another issue is the melee weapons. Saints Row 1 and 2's melee weapons all had their own animations and were fun to use, but in Saints Row 3 and 4 all the melee weapons shared the same animations and felt dual. You don't get the same satisfaction from beating up a homeless person with melee weapons in 3 and 4 compared to 1 and 2. Also, the option to pick up items to be used as melee weapons was also removed. This was a great feature, and it was always fun to hit someone with a blow-up doll. But the biggest issue of all was the removal of the Pimp Slap and Pimp Cane. How could Volition not include 2 of their best weapons into the rest of the series? I could somewhat understand the Pimp Slap being replaced by the Apoca Fist, but there's no excuse for the Pimp Cane. It should have been given to you from Zemos for clearing the Morning Star or something. Bottom line, Saints Row 5's weapons shouldn't have upgrades, and it needs Saints Row 2's system. Plus, the melee weapons should all have their own animations, and the Pimp Slap and Pimp Cane have to return. No exceptions.
Know what you got yourself into.
Now let's get into vehicles. Vehicles have always been one of Volition's strongest areas. Each game has improved car handling in detail, but that became basically useless in Saints Row 4. My only request is enhanced customization for vehicles and more realistic nitrous. My only issue with vehicles is the lack of airplanes and boats after the second game. Saints Row 3 added VTOLs and Spectres, making it pointless to drive all the way to the airport when you can get a multi-purpose aircraft from your crib. Even still, there are only 4 planes in both Saints Row 3 and 4 when Saints Row 3 had over 6. Plus, plane controls were also dumbed down. In Saints Row 2, you could fully turn your camera around and it made you feel like you were actually flying a plane. You could set your plane controls to advanced in Saints Row 3, but it's not the same. Boats also became pointless and were even removed from Saints Row 4. Saints Row 2 had the need for boats, and it was fun riding them around. There was only 2 missions in Saints Row 3 where you actually had to use a boat. For Saints Row 5, I would love to see more planes and boats and even options to customize them. Now that would be freaking sweet. Let's quickly talk about the game's difficulty. Saints Row's difficulty has become easier and easier with every game. You can play on the hardest difficulty and still feel like you're playing on normal. It's true that no game is fun when it's too hard, but it's especially boring when it's too easy. Saints Row 5 should have a harder difficulty, and any upgrade that makes you invincible should be removed from any future games. Now I'd like to quickly talk about a few things I'd personally like to see added to the game. When using a parachute, the player should be able to pull out a weapon. GTA 5 has this now and it's time for Saints Row. And releasing the parachute while aiming should put you into a stance like the second mission of Saints Row 3 where you can fire while you're free falling. I also think it's time for the players to be able to dive under the water. This could be a perfect opportunity to add tons of Easter eggs and maybe bring back the Loch Ness Monster that the players can even fight. Now that would be insane. Now, I've had this idea for Saints Row for a long time. In Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, your character's appearance and health would change depending on how well you ate and if you worked out. This concept has always been cool to me and I think it'd fit perfectly into a Saints Row game. Plus, this would add new types of stores and activities to the game. You can go to the gym and work out, increasing your melee and throwing range. Or you can just get really fat, weakening your stamina and fighting. Or you could just turn off this feature in the options, but still having the ability to work out and eat. And lastly, the feature where you can hop into vehicles from the top has to return. Now that we've talked about the key components of gameplay, we can now get into the game's environment. What can make or break any free-roaming game is its world. Saints Row 2 has my all-time favorite city in any game. I went into Saints Row 3 with high hopes for Steelport, but got highly disappointed. The NPCs of both Saints Row 3 and 4 feel rushed and brain dead. The NPCs of Saints Row 2 felt alive. You could always find people dancing, jogging, kissing, playing, smoking, and just freaking the hell out. Every district even had their own unique citizens. Downtown had the upper class, the red light district had your pimps and hoes, the trailer park district had your rednecks, and the factory district has your blue collar workers. You'll never find any NPCs that are as entertaining as the ones from Saints Row 2.
Oh god, no, get to the chopper!
Anywhere you go in Saints Row 3, you'll always find the same peds with no variations in clothes or emotion. Well, unless you go to the zombie island. NPCs are the bloodline to any city. If they feel bland and boring, that's how the player's gonna feel. But not only do the NPCs ruin Steelport, the city itself is missing essentials to keep the player entertained for hours after beating the game. Steelport has less than half of the enterable buildings and stores compared to Saints Row 2. More kinds of stores would add tons of gameplay to the city. Even though you can edit your hair at the plastic surgeon, there should still be barber shops, and movie theaters should return. I love being able to go to the movies to rewatch cutscenes and replay missions. I also have an idea to make radio stations less lifeless. In Saints Row 4, there wasn't any radio talk shows to listen to. I love listening to talk shows in games. They're usually funny and give a great deal of history of the city and its people. So in Saints Row 5, there should be a couple of talk show hosts that you can listen to. And get this, you should be able to hire a talk show host for your own station. Yes, the radio station should be a viable and manageable store to enhance the life of the city. To this day, I've continued to find places I've never seen in Saints Row 2, and I've played this game for over 200 hours. Saints Row 3 put a lot of unique places into its game, but they're only for one-time missions. Any place you go to in a mission should be visitable at any time in free roam. This would add hours of gameplay and give a player a feel of how real the city can be. For Saints Row 5, the city needs living citizens and many more enterable buildings.
Think they learn.
Well guys, that's it for part 1 of my Saints Row 5 wish list. I hope you guys agreed with some of my ideas. Anyways, thanks for watching, and part 2 should be out in a couple weeks. And I'll catch you guys next time.
Johnny! Hi, Johnny! Yes! Yeah! Fuck you! I got you! I got your asshole! No, he's not. It is not me! Fuck you! You bitch! Yeah! Behind you! Ah! Fuck you! Fuck you! You son of a bitch! Fuck off!